What's going on, guys? So, Moto Chat live take two. Typically, this will happen if there's too much traffic on YouTube and the internet connection is phenomenal. It's just that the link to YouTube. Anyway, what's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. Thank you for stopping back by for the take two. Now, tonight's live primarily focusing on, well, I want to hear from R9 owners. Specifically, I want to hear from guys that have taken possession of their bike. I also want to hear from you folks that have placed the order and maybe you just haven't received it yet. Those are the folks I want to talk to. And I want to talk about some of the bikes that are out there that will be competing with that bike. Main thing I want to know is what drove you to that motorcycle. And for the folks that might be new to the channel, my live show, this is my opportunity to interact with you guys directly. It's also an opportunity for me to, let's say I'm trying to put together a video and I just, for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time putting it together. Sometimes those videos end up as live shows, and that's what this is. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys, find out what makes you tick, what made you go with the R9 in light of so many other bikes that are out there. So checking in, Ryan first back in. Yeah, Ryan, buddy, I don't know. Sometimes, it's live shows, man. This is the way this stuff goes. But in saying all of that, I got to say the R9 has been one of the most anticipated motorcycles for a very, very long time. If you're not familiar with the R9 itself, well, here's the thing. It's a sport bike that falls under the super sport category of motorcycles. It's more of it's a modern evolution of what used to be a class that was owned by 600cc four-cylinder bikes. As emissions laws have changed and tastes have changed in terms of power delivery, other types of bikes have come out that are larger in displacement but don't rev nearly as high as those rather hyperactive 600s did. And because of that, you get motorcycles that have a bit more of a torquey nature, in essence. Think of it kind of like it's more of an evolution from high winding screamers to motorcycles that may be a lot more street oriented. So, or at least in terms of their power output, call it maybe not street oriented, but maybe a bit more street friendly. Some would argue that they would fall into that. I don't necessarily buy into that, but I understand where they're going. But anyway, the R9 is that bike. So if we're taking a look at this, it's a good looking machine, I suppose. I mean, it is edgy looking. It's got a definite sport bike aesthetic to it. But there's some things about this bike that for me, I can't really gel with it. On some levels, I think it's a great bike, but there's some hangups with me on this. But if you guys bought it, I would love to know, taking all the subjective stuff aside, that's the looks of the bike. What are your ideas for this bike long term? Are you going to take it to the track? Is this going to be more of just a street type of bike? What exactly are you guys looking for with that machine? Because here's the interesting thing. I know a lot of folks right now with the R9, they're going to claim some kind of a connection to the Super Sport race series. And I suppose we can't not talk about this motorcycle without bringing up the Super Sport race series, where the R9 is doing exceptionally well. But that success has not been examined very thoroughly. The winning combination on this motorcycle that is doing so well hasn't quite been dissected. And when you look at it from more of a technical standpoint, it really isn't the bike that you buy from Yamaha. It's got a Tracer 9 swing arm. It's obviously engine has been modified significantly, although it is based on a production motorcycle. That's pretty cool. But because of how that class is governed, this particular motorcycle just so happens to fit in terms of power output very perfectly within the parameters of what makes that class work. Where you have other motorcycles like the Ducati Panigale V2, you've got bikes like the GSXR 750, which is heavily neutered, may I add, so that it can, at least on some level the playing field in that class. It's just that the 750 is so neutered that it doesn't really compete as well as if these motorcycles were open class. It might be a whole different story. But in saying all of that, it's kind of hard to fall in love with the R9 for me, because it's what I am hearing from the journalist. That is, there's two things. There's the European press release and then the North American press release on this bike. These guys, they'll praise the way that the bike gets around the track, but they are almost unilaterally and unanimously disappointed with the power output. And the CP3 engine, a fantastic engine as it is for a number of other applications. But for a sport bike, I feel like there's been a disservice, and I'm concerned. And R9 owners, if you ever stumble upon this video, I would love to hear, especially if this is like months down the road, did you suffer from buyer's remorse? Did you start diving into this motorcycle? We're talking exhaust, tuning, filters, or whatever else, the Tracer 9 swing arm, all of that. Did you dive into this bike, and did you find it maybe wanting a little bit? And I understand that the Two Wheel Dyno Works videos are very popular right now. They are the first, they are at the spear, the tip of the sword when it comes to tuning and all of that with these CP3 engines. And I get that. But even with camshafts, full exhaust from M4, which y'all know that's my favorite exhaust company. It's a Texas company. Of course, it's my favorite. But with an M4 exhaust in every bobble and gadget you can throw at this CP3, you're looking at about 140 horsepower to the rear tire. Now, that sounds pretty impressive, but it's not that much more power than just a breathed-on GSXR 750. And it would be orders of magnitude more expensive than that bike coming into that portion of the conversation. So again, it makes you kind of wonder, what exactly is the mission statement of this bike? So in saying all that, I want to get with you guys real quick, check in with y'all, because again, the live show is my opportunity to hang out with y'all. So let's dive into it. Ryan saying, yeah, basically, so why did we get the R9 instead of the R1? More street ability. Here's the weird thing, Ryan. I think one of the reasons why is the leader class bike in general and the super sport class, as taken as a whole, was for a while fairly unpopular. You had a major rise in popularity of the sport naked and hyper naked class of bikes. And interestingly enough, that flash in the pan, which for a lot of folks, they kind of feel like that, but that flash in the pan that would have been the sport naked, hyper naked, that whole class of bike, once you get to a certain power level, you've got to have a full fairing, right? Well, at this stage of the game, all of the development for emissions regulations was going into the most popular bike, which was the sport naked, the hyper naked. And the way that market moved dictated where all the R&D dollars were going. And so as you had Euro 5 emissions coming into play, manufacturers were mainly driving that bus, and big leader bikes weren't selling, and they're tougher to make emissions compliant. From a NOx, the nitrous oxide, the NOx emissions is one big deal that four cylinders have a harder time meeting than twins or triples because of total ring volume or total ring circumference area, I should say. There's a lot of goofy stuff that comes into that. So the oxides of nitrogen dictated this, believe it or not, in many ways. But again, the market did too. Four-cylinder bikes are getting a lot more expensive. They're a lot more expensive to insure once you get them into the 1,000cc range. And so that's another reason why. But the thing is that, you know, we talk about streetability. Man, the R1 is a big pussycat if you're not wailing on it. So is my GSX-R 1000. So it makes it kind of difficult to argue for an R9. Although I will say this, the R9 is a lot more accessible for guys. It's a reachable aspiration to get to a point where you're on an R9 and not intimidated by the power output. You get to absorb and enjoy all of the torque of a big bore bike, but not suffer the scary of the big power that comes with it. And by the way, you are 100% right to be spooked by a motorcycle making 175, 85, or 95 horsepower to the rear tire, which is what every one of these leader class bikes will do. And then some once they're simply just de-restricted with an exhaust. That is a ton of power. And if you're not used to that, or you don't feel like you ever want to get used to that, but you still want a sporty bike, the R9 might be the way to go. My beef with the R9, though, is that it should have come a bit more prepared for being a sport bike. And again, and here's the other funny thing. You know, I've talked about this before, but the R9 at this power level has got an electronic suite that is unparalleled. It literally has the best rider aid, connectivity. It's got everything you could possibly hope for in that respect. ABS, the whole nine. But it's on a motorcycle that doesn't really make enough power to ever employ that technology. At least, let me put it to you this. In my experience, by the time those technologies start to come into play, if you trigger them, in many cases, you have put yourself in a position that is already rather compromised. Every single one of those technologies, whether it's not necessarily ABS, I'm just talking about the lean sensitive IMU, lean sensitive traction control. A lot of that stuff, if you do employ it, you're on the side of the tire, you find yourself, you overcooked a turn and you accidentally hit the brake really hard. Newer riders can do this, could cause a washout low side. That's when those freaking technologies will try to bail you out. But a lot of times, even that won't work. So anyway, I just saw Ryan. So after Two Wheel Tuesday chat, I went Wednesday and rode a Gixxer 750, sold both CF Motos. Now I own a Gixxer 750. You skids are bullies. Welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the family, bro. You're now Gixxer bro, man. I love it. So, Ryan, what color did you get? Let me know. What color did you go with? I gotta know. Ryan said he still hasn't seen a new one in public. You know what's funny, Ryan? The thing about the new R9 is that nobody has received them yet. The R9 reminds me of the hype in the early days of the 6-liter LS. Well, the problem is the 6-liter LS, you can actually build something out of that. Wine blue, yes, got a Z model. Excellent. I am stoked for you, bro. So anyway, so just so you guys know, I will be taking possession of mine, it looks like, on Thursday. So we shall see. And let's all take a moment to, and I suppose great minds do think alike, my friend. I mean, dude, is there? I mean, yeah, I can see why you would have gone with that. Kids, everybody's getting the 750s. I'm in. Ryan, so what exhaust shall we get? I will be going with an M4 stainless steel. So it'll be a Tech 1 M4 with the long can, just like I have on my 1000. There are a lot of exhausts out there. And next week, we will be having a special show where we will be showcasing the new bike as I'm picking it up. I've already ordered parts for it. So yeah, that will be a very cool thing. And I'm looking forward to that very much. We're going to talk tires. We're going to talk a little bit of everything, really. Ryan, does M4 have a blued color exhaust? Yes, they do. That they have a full titanium, and the full titanium will start to turn blue. It's really pretty. It'll go from like a gold, like the stainless steel, then it'll transition from a blue into kind of a deeper, like almost a violet blue. It's real pretty. Skid saying, right, we're positive influencers, or for me as a positive influencer, of course. Thank you. But yes, it is a good thing. But no, guys, seriously. So I don't want to get too far off topic. I do want to focus heavily though on the GSXR 750 right now for this chat though. So perfect timing. So let's talk about the GSXR 750 as it pertains to the R9. Now, look, the in the super sport class of racing, the GSXR 750 doesn't really do all that great. The reason why it doesn't do all that great is because it is heavily restricted just to keep it somewhat competitive. And where the Gixxer is so restricted, it never really makes full torque. It's kind of stuck in B mode, really. So, yeah, it's kind of like that. But, you know, on the street, it's a completely different story. And in real life, let me put it to you like this. Okay, so yes, I am getting a GSXR 750. It is on the way. I've already started ordering parts for my bike. But if you watch my video on my ride and review, that experience will basically be the documentation of me just absolutely being cemented with this bike. It's not to say that I'm getting rid of my 1000. I'm not. But I will say this, the GSXR 750, for me, when I rode it, it just clicked, man. I mean, everything about that bike, and this is something, Ryan, I mean, you went and test rode one, and I can tell you right now, when you ride one, it's like, oh, that's why. That's the reason why this bike has been unchanged for, and let's all be real, boys, this bike hasn't changed for about 20 years. It's had a little bit of a facelift since 2006, my old bike. And let's not forget, hold on a second. You guys, hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, you know what? I can't share that portion of the screen. Anyway, you know, that was my track bike back in the day. That was my bike that I was up in the mountains with. And with lousy tires and with a 1 down, 2 up configuration on gearing, which is way too aggressive, although it does work well. That bike was just a sweetheart up in the hills and up in the mountains over off of Pacific Coast Highway, up and down 84, which is Skyline. Man, that's where that bike just absolutely shined. Now, I am not going to go very aggressive with gearing. I'm going to be going 1644 for my gearing selection. And that will also blend over to when I put a 520 conversion on the bike. So I'll be doing 1644 with the stock 116 link chain. And so that's the direction that this will be going. And yes, Ryan, welcome, sir. Welcome. Dude, listen, Ryan, if you ever thought Mopar guy was like Suzuki guy, especially Gixxer, bro, dude, I mean, I'm so happy for you, dude. That you've got yourself the absolutely, in my opinion, best motorcycle that money can buy. And that's not taking anything away from my GSXR 1000. But I can tell you this. This is what I wanted to say. And you guys will hear me say this again when I start doing more dedicated videos with the 750. I have been more excited ever since I rode the 750 again, that black bike. I've been more excited since I rode that bike than I have been for my 1000. I'll take it a step further. I damn near bought the black bike. So they had sold this bike, and I was like, bummer. And so I rode the black bike, and I really liked it. And you can tell in the video, I'm just as giddy as I can possibly be. The intake, the howl, the growl of this bike, it's so good. And I've got comparison videos that I've kind of got queued up already too. Stuff that I want to talk about, comparing the GSXR 750 to the 1000. What are they like to ride? All of that. But the main takeaway here, guys, the one thing I wanted to share is, this is a situation where it's not about the power. It's not about anything other than the riding experience. And so getting back to the R9 portion of the chat, I like the R9 in principle, but the thing that I find it lacking is the soul that you get with a bike like this. And look, I'm illustrating the GSXR 750 for obvious personal biased reasons, but this could also just as easily be a 636, an R6. This could be a CBR 600. It could be any of the actual true motorcycles that were designed around being a sport bike. Now, I know what the R9 guy is going to say. The R9 has a bespoke chassis. It's not just a fully fared MT09. You're exactly right. But in saying that, there's also some things that motorcycle shares with its upright counterpart that you just cannot deny. And so it's got a lot of that sport naked DNA still in its gene pool, if you will. Whereas motorcycles like this have nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with a naked motorcycle. Absolutely nothing at all. They were always designed and conceived and pinned to be a sport bike. Never were they intended on being a naked bike. Matter of fact, let's not forget the Street Fighter class of bikes just came from guys that had yard saled their sport bike and just put it back together and rode the thing. That's where it all came down to. So, when we're talking about the R9, let me just get back to this. I want to focus on the R9 real quick, and I need to do a stop share real quick. Let me pull up the R9 again for you guys, because there's one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention before I forget. I mean, look at it. It's a good looking bike. Okay. So subjectively speaking, I mean, it's a pretty good looking bike, but it's no GSXR 750. But here's one thing I wanted to point out. In this screen, you can see where it says wheelbase 55.9 inches. Well, I've got it. Where is it in here? I've got it pulled up somewhere. Anyway, that's the same wheelbase as a GSXR 1000. And realistically, the guys that race this bike end up going with a Tracer 9 rear swing arm, which is about an inch longer than this. It's a big bike. I mean, it rides like a bigger bike. And so my bike with a 1644 gear set will have basically a 54.5-inch wheelbase. And it's really more like 53. Let me remind myself here. Let's see, 54.7. So it'll be more like 55 when everything's said and done. Yeah, it'll be more close to the R9. with that slightly different gearing profile. But here's the thing. I like the idea of the R9 in principle if it came with more power and if it came with a more sporting engine. It's not just a chassis thing. I mean, the bike does sit bigger than the GSXR 600 and 750 and pretty much any of the 600s for that matter. But it's the engine that's in it. I know a lot of folks love the CP3 and it's a great engine and I understand all of that. But the reality is it's still a corporate motor in this thing. And I mean, we're talking an engine that powers, it is an adventure bike engine in a sport bike chassis, but with just a slight tweak, a little bit more compression ratio. That's not going to hurt you for emissions. A little bit more aggressive camshafts that will allow this thing to realistically breathe a little bit up top. And I understand that the configuration of this engine, the stroke and the RPM, when you start to do the piston speed calculator, it gets a little bit spooky with this bike at RPM that's, say, I don't know, up around 11-ish, maybe 11 and a half-ish thousand RPM. I think that maybe a reconfigure it. Well, you can't really reconfigure it with a bigger bore and a shorter stroke because it's the corporate engine. So to get this bike where it needs to be, you're going to literally put it at the functional limit of the parts that are inside of it. Regardless of how good the pistons, the rods, the rings, the bearings, and all of that are, there's just only so much you can do as far as how fast that piston has to move when it's that big to draw that much air in. It's a lot. And you're limited by space at that point. So I think that you're looking at something very near the, I hate to say it, but the evolutionary ending of the R9 is pretty close to where it starts. Now, again, I understand that you can put camshafts with this bike, bump up compression, airbox mods, exhaust, all of that. I get that you can do all of that to this bike, but at what cost, boys? Because when you start to do all of that to this motorcycle, you go from $12,500 to $18,000 once you've sunk all this money into this bike. And holy crap. I mean, now you've stepped into GSXR 1000 territory and you're already there because your wheelbase is the same as a GSXR 1000. So I need, at that point, like, really, is the smart money still going into a very hot rodded R9, or do you buy a GSXR 1000 or a ZX10 that from the factory is going to be putting down 15 or 20 more horsepower to the rear tire, and it's for the same money? It is a order of magnitude more torque. I mean, it's just more powerful everywhere. Do you do that, or do you rock a modified R9? Now, that's for each individual to determine on their own. You know, they got to make that choice, right? What works for you? But man, I got to tell you, and here's the other thing. Coming into this conversation, the R9, I would say, look, you have to have a different exhaust on this bike. That exhaust, I'm looking at you, R9, that is not a handsome looking exhaust. That is a weird looking exhaust that is going to start turning a bunch of weird different colors. You almost have to hit that thing with like you've got to clean it with acetone, hit it with some high temp primer, and then tag that thing with high temp flat black just so that you don't get the discoloration on the welds from that type of an assembly. I mean, that looks unfinished to me. And I know that you can't really, it'd be tough to finish it in terms of an actual finish from the factory, but damn, guys, that makes it tough to look at. So, man, there's got to be a better way for sure. Sovereign's liking the color. Sam's talking about Pontiac coming back. Yeah, I don't know anything about the car stuff anymore, man. Ryan's talking about the Rampage finally making it. Man, look, if the Rampage is going to be the pickup truck, that was one that we should have already had. That should have been the first EV that we got from Dodge, and it just hadn't happened. Ryan saying the R9 looks nice. You know, the R9, it does look nice, but I mean, no matter what, I mean, we're looking at this thing, right? And I mean, it for sure is a good looking bike, but let me get this thing 3/4 out here. Oh, it's just kind of a, you know, if you look at it, yeah, it's a good looking bike. However, hold please. Let me just look at this one again. Hold up. It might be a good looking bike, but it isn't that kind of good looking right there. And that's a timeless looking bike, guys. I mean, this one for me, the GSXR 750, that's what the R9's got to beat on the street. And again, I have to ask the R9 guys, why? You know, what about the R9 was it the electronic suite? Are you planning on putting a thinner head gasket on that thing, camshafts, full exhaust, a tune, all the gadgets and doodads? Are you planning on going with that? Was it the brakes? Okay, look, let's get back to the R9. Because guys, look, one thing that you for sure have got to admit, let me bust back over to this guy right here. Oh, it didn't do it. Hang on, let me try like this. This will be a little bit easier. Here's what I want to go over with the R9 too. It's all the stuff this bike has. If this thing, come on, technology. That's me, by the way. Okay, so the Yamaha R9, Brembo Stylema brakes, braided brake lines. It's got, I think it's even got a Brembo master cylinder. It's got amazing brakes. It's got the electronic suite of the R1, a TFT screen with multiple connectivity and all the things that come with it. I guess my question on this bike is this. Is that why you bought it? I mean, talking about the brakes on a bike like this at this power level, every other bike, every other real sport bike before this, I mean, yeah, braided brake lines might do good if you're doing a lot of track work, but the reality is that there are so many bikes that don't employ that technology that do exceptionally well on the street, which is where this bike is kind of marketed to spend most of its time. And so in that respect, did you really need those higher dollar components? And instead of $12,500, maybe a bike that had regular Brembos with rubber brake lines and maybe not as sophisticated of a rider technology suite with a more basic TFT screen. Let's say you go from $12,500 to, say, I don't know, $11,000 flat. You know, the same kind of technology suite that comes with the Honda Hornet 1000, the CB 1000 that is so anticipated right now. You know, that motorcycle checks in at about 11.5 US dollars, and it doesn't have a ton of technology. It's got some, it's got, you know, 3-axis IMU, and it's got a TFT screen, but it's not crazy laden with technology. If this bike would have had less technology and it came in at $11,000, maybe 11.5, which is the same price as a 600, then maybe you can seriously make the case that the R9 is the smart play. And because of the price point only being $11,000 or $11,500, it would pull it out of the crosshairs of the GSXR 750. Because look, in this game, the difference between $11,000 and $13,000, which is where the GSXR 750 falls, guys, that's basic. Let's call it what it is. That's a 20% difference in price, right? So without splitting hairs, yeah, that is a significant difference. And had this bike had just a little bit less technology, I would have even forgiven the fact that the CP3 is making the kind of power that it is. Price it right, price it as a 600 because it's supposed to be taking the place of the R6 anyway. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a bike that is a strong value for dollar proposition. As it sits, it kind of looks like it's not all that great of a value. And look, I'm not here to shit on the R9. I'm just basically calling it like I see it. And if you guys have one, correct me, please, course correct me at any point in this. But the reality here, guys, is that you're talking about a bike that is using a corporate engine that everything about that motor has been bought and paid for already. There was zero R&D put into that motor to make any more power. It's already been shown it's the same engine, same cam, same compression ratio, with the same mapping, in essence, as any MT-09 or Tracer 9 or whatever else is out there that runs this engine. So nothing there. All the money and time went into the chassis, but the electronic suite was already there from the R1. The swing arm is the same as, well, it's the same as the MT-09. So there's not been a lot put into this bike in terms of R&D in that respect. It's a great looking bike. Tons of time and effort went into the styling. But in this game, it's got to be more than just skin deep. And guys, I've never ridden one, although I do own a motorcycle that has extremely similar power output. It's a sport bike. It's roughly the same engine displacement at 955 cc's. That's my Triumph Daytona circa 1998. And if that's how this bike runs, it's not a bad bike, but it will never be mistaken for a true, honest to goodness sport bike. At least not in the respect of what you would consider to be like a truly sporting bike. It'll be a bike that handles well, that's fairly comfortable, that is never overwhelming. But I think, and I don't know this for sure, and I'm not optimistic that one way or another on this about being right or wrong. What I'm afraid of with the R9 is that guys are going to buy it because it's so hyped up. And then they're maybe going to start to suffer a little bit of buyer's remorse when they find that they too are bouncing the thing off the rev limiter like all the guys were doing in the review videos. They're going to find that they're having a bit of a hard time justifying the number that they spent on this bike when their buddies might have an R6, a GSX R600, or even a worst case scenario is you freaking run up against somebody on a 636 Kawasaki who paid significantly less for that bike, which makes a lot more power than the R9. I mean, it's not just the GSX R750 you've got to worry about. The R9 is not going to bully the class. The rest of the class has got their rifles are locked, shouldered, and they are looking at the bullseye that is painted on the R9. I mean, everybody with an any of the bikes I previously mentioned are waiting to run across this bike out in the twisties. I promise you. And unless you've got the chops to really get something out of this platform, the chassis itself, I don't know. And again, I get it. Ride your own ride and all of that. And I'm one to talk. I know. And I'm even the same guy that go, man, I'm kind of in a chill mood today. And then I get on the bike and then I do things. And I get it. That's just me. You may be a lot more disciplined. You probably are. In fact, I would wager that you are. But the reality, though, is that in the game that you're playing, the R9 is not coming to the table with really the right arm, the right armament. Really, it's just the CP3 engine, I think, is going to be what ends up hampering this bike. And I'm afraid that once people do start leaning on this motor, they're going to start to find that it's just not, it's not the sport bike they thought it was going to be. Ryan saying, Skids, when's the last time you rode a GSX R750? Skid said, test rode the 750 in 22. It was close. I opted for the Ducati just because I have no good reason why I went SS 950 over the GSX R750 or Panigale V2. Skids, good point here. If I could have done it over, probably would have went V2 just so I could say been there, done that. You know what's funny about the Panigale V2? When you put the Panigale V2 up against the GSXR 750, it's kind of funny because that bike is simply a much larger engine of a bike. It's 955 versus 748, 750. So it's a full 30% more power or torque, and with about the same horsepower. And you look at the Panigale V2 and you go, damn, if that bike just didn't cost what it cost, because that's a great bike too. But that GSXR 750 with that intake howl, I just don't know. I could say no to it. Well, I couldn't, obviously. Ryan laying it on Skids. I like it. Say, well, I think it's time, Skids. Go write another one and see what happens. Damn, son, I love it. Hell yeah. We have awakened Ryan's inner Jixer bro, Skids. I love it. Hell yeah. Hold on. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let me just bring this back up real fast. Time out. Let's all remind him. We're just going to leave that right there. Okay, there we go. Ryan said, "Do you have a room for rent? I'd probably need it." I'll tell you what, man. Here's the fun thing too about this class of bike. Okay, now this is where I've got to give the R9 props, guys. And I hate this too, because it's going to sound like I've just been over here just absolutely dropping trow and pinching loaf on the R9. I'm not. All right. I mean, I know that there's a lot of Cleveland steamer out there for the R9 from some more hardcore guys. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this. I like the super sport class of bike, and I like the R9 in that it is the Daytona that Triumph never made. So it's a triple. It's roughly 900 cc's. It makes good power. It's got a light weight to it, a little bit longer wheelbase, all of that. I like the idea of that bike. But here's the twist, okay? The R9 is a low compression by these standards. I want to say it's like 11.5 to 1. It's not really a sport bike engine. Hey, guys, I got news for you. The GSXR 750, it's only 12.5 to 1 compression. It's as understressed of an engine that is out there. There is not much that this GSXR 750 engine is going to be phased by that you do with it. There's a video been running around the internet for like ever. Dudes out there ripping it up on a GSXR 750 with like 85,000 miles on the clock. The guy's like, look, I've just done normal maintenance and replace stuff as it goes bad. Rotors, clutches, the normal stuff that's going to go bad anyway. It's like, yeah, I just did that. He's not real big into, he just stays with the program when it comes to maintenance, and the thing is still around, right? And hasn't even been that deep into it. So I'll say this. It just goes to show how good the GSXR 750 engine is, which is me saying that, look, people will talk about this. God, I'm taking forever to get to a point. It's me. But the thing is that people will talk about the Tracer 9 and the XSR 900, the MTO 9, anything powered by a CP3, and they're going to go, oh, well, that engine's understressed. It's going to be very reliable, whatever. This is the poster child for an understressed engine. There is so much more lurking in a GSXR 750 engine. It is almost, it's scary. It's spooky to think about. So yeah, CP3's definitely understressed, but make no mistake, GSXR 750, one of, if not the most understressed true sport bike engine that's out there. Let's see. Sam saying, Oh, Sam's haven't been on a bike in years since he wrecked one at a sand pit. We used to have sand pits down here. It was a lot of fun. Sam's missing his TRX 250. That's right. Maybe forget to stare at your bikes and promise not to go riding without me. That's funny. Ryan's liking it. It's got the muscle in the sole. Oh, yeah. Ryan's saying it's why I had to have it. I'll tell you what, it just took, you know, I rode, this is the funny thing. So I rode the GSXR 600. I did that ride and review on that bike, and that kind of started a clock ticking for me. And the more time that I spent thinking about the 600, the more I thought I really need to ride that newer 750. And oddly enough, Stub Cycles, they'll sell every 750 that they get. The 750s, I don't know that the 750s last more than 2 or 3 weeks on the showroom floor. Once they come in, boom, they're gone. So what's funny is that there just wasn't a GSXR 750 for me to ride. And finally, the black one showed up. I rode it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, I should have. I'm glad I did, but that really started the clock ticking. And there's a spot in the video where I think it's pretty clear that there's going to be a transaction in my future. If you watch the video, first of all, if I end up going over that overpass, it means that I'm usually having fun and I'm not held up by like timelines or something like that. But it usually means I'm having fun or something is novel, something is interesting, and I just don't want to exit. I'll just keep going when I make that U-turn. And I get to one of the roads called Goodyear Road, and I make that U-turn. When I'm getting back onto the highway there, listen to what that bike sounds like as I'm getting onto the freeway. And I'm just kind of fanning it through the gears. I'm not really running it hard. It was at about that time that I knew that I was going to have to get one. There's that intake growl, the way that the bike was putting down power, the way that it felt, the way that the suspension was put together. It was something that, and keep in mind, I've got a GSXR 1000. The 750 is not going to spook me in terms of power, but it is so satisfying to ride and just so fun to ride. And I'm not wide open ever in that video. I'm just kind of, running through the gears, and I'm pouring a little bit of gear to it. But when I make that turn, you'll hear it kind of flutter a little bit. And that part of the road is a little bit dusty getting onto that portion of, it's actually 225. And you'll hear it, right? And that's the bike. It's stepping out just a little bit, and you just hear me rolling into the throttle at that point. And that's when, what I try to do is I'll try to get bikes to step out right there just because it's easy to do. And it just, yeah. And that's when click, click, click. I'm just having so much fun with that bike. So it is a ton of fun. Skid saying Ryan would have a built-in riding buddy. It is, love it. It is the symbiote of a bike. I love it. Skid saying my latest is I got my seats for both bikes. Also got the 10.5 in Thrash and Ride. Oh, and the risers in the mid bed bar for the Street Bob. Nice. I'll tell you what, I'm trying to get in and do some more Harley Davidson content also. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I am looking to do some more Harley Davidson content. I will tell you guys right now, though, that freaking Street Glide, man, if I had it in the budget to pick one up, I might have done it. And so what bikes are going away? So we're going to talk about this too. Ryan, so the Indian Chally, the problem is that bike's battery flaked out. I don't know. I don't know if they put a new battery in that bike or not. but yeah, no, that Challenger that's there is that gray one, dude. That is a nice looking bike, man. But it's going to have some big shoes to fill, bro, because that Street Glide for me was pretty eye opening. Again, with the only beef that I have with the Harley Davidson motorcycle from a design point of view is that freaking kickstand that scares the living shit out of me. It's such a weird, like, you don't dare touch the handlebars when that thing's on the side stand. You turn the thing as you're trying to get on the bike and they can roll that bike forward. Oh my God, man. It's just right. Anyway, but yeah, the squirrel, but no, the Indian Challenger is a damn nice bike, man. Skid's going, y'all going full Jigsaw Bros. I'm going full Dyna Bro. I love it. Hey, listen, one thing I will say is, you know, there's a reason why Harley Davidson is so polarizing. GSXR Suzuki is so polarizing. It's because they work. They work on the level that they are at in the realm that they play in. There's a reason why they're so popular and why people are so drawn to them. They're just really, really that good. And I will stand by that statement. And yeah, we're all, you know, either from on the Harley side or on the Gixxer side, man, we're, you know, known to be a bit more hooligan-y, if that's a word, than maybe other brand loyalists might be. I just know that all the knuckleheads that I rolled with were all Gixxer. So I say all of them, a lot of them were Gixxer. Gixxers and R6s. So these kids saying truth. So, but yeah, guys. So that's, anyway, we didn't have anybody that's an R9 Atista. Nobody on the R9 side came on tonight, it looks like. So I'm probably going to check out here. I got to kind of get back to work. I got to ride in the morning. I got to get the 1000 ready for, but yeah, we've got a couple of bikes leaving the stable. We've got, you know, one coming into the fold, so to speak, here pretty soon. So as that starts to unfold, I'll start bringing you guys that content. I'm very much looking forward to that. Can't wait for it because, again, I feel like this is maybe the bike that, I'm not going to say it's the bike I should have got. The 1000's the bike I should have got. I'm happy with that bike, and it's not going anywhere right now. But it's the GSXR 750 really is the channel's bike. And so that's how this bike is coming into play. And so that's how I'm going to treat it. Sam's saying genes do not prevent rash. No, they do not. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and check out. Y'all have a good one. Hey, listen, it's Mother's Day tomorrow, so don't forget to call your mom. And with that, guys, I'm getting out of here. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. Ryan's saying the 1000 is BS bike. The 750 is YouTube bike. Yeah, it really is. I mean, the 750 is the one that you're going to be seeing. Probably you're going to get sick of seeing content with that bike, but that is why I'm picking it up. It's the bike that really tugs at my heartstrings the most, and that's the one that I'm most motivated to bring you guys content with. So welcome the GSXR 750 once we get that. Oh, Sam said, wasn't the rash, it was the exhaust. Oh, eesh. Well, it doesn't help either way. But with that, guys, I got to check out. Y'all have a great one. Take care. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, going live at 9:30 now from now on because the YouTube thing, this kid wants to show himself doing hooligan on it. Man, okay, hold on. So this is bonus track. Here's the thing, that if you watch me riding that 750, you'll even hear. Okay, so a little bit of background on that. Whenever I do ride reviews, I'm narrating as I'm riding the bike. Obviously, you can hear the wind and everything else. This is just me thinking out loud when I'm riding that bike. sometimes I'll just say things and it's literally not really meant for public consumption, but it's out there for public consumption. And you'll hear me right off the bat go, be still, intrusive thoughts. That's my little way of saying you're on film, be cool, right? Because I was getting onto the freeway. Listen to that bike when I'm getting onto the freeway for the second and for the third time. There were some intrusive thoughts in play there, and they were definitely winning the argument inside of my head. And so, yeah, I wasn't necessarily hooning, but yeah, we were leaning on her just a little bit. That's such a good bike. Anyway, now I got to scram. Y'all take care, guys.